Yep.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. I'm
Hello.
Lisa Dalton,
I am Joerg Andres. Hello.
and we are here to chat about Michael Chekhov. And I am the president of the National Michael Chekhov Association. And Joerg is the,
Me is,
yes.
I'm the director of the Michael Chekhov International Academy based in Berlin
Great.
in Germany.
And I'm in the United States with the National Michael Chekhov Association, and I'm headquartered out of Fort Worth, Texas.
Very good. Very good. And I have to say a little excuse because I know that sometimes my English is very German based and sometimes very not the right way around as English should go. So hopefully you can understand. And even when I speak fast, it doesn't mean that I understand fast speaking.
Wonderful. So Joerg has selected a topic in this chat that we're having. And the topic is Joerg.
What do you think about the term energy? There is always, again and again, I hear that people speak about the energy, how they work with the energy, and what is this mystical thing, the energy.
Good, good. And what are your thoughts on that, Joerg?
Yeah, I just was asking you. But you may hear that when I have this question, that I have some questions about that, using this word energy, because it is quite clear, I can understand. It shall describe something what one is sensing in a field what is not absolutely visible, in a field what gives also for the sensation and for the feeling a certain quality, what we can name that one feels energized through some work. But when one uses it also in the training and speaks about that, I take the energy from there and there, or I radiate my energy to you and to the other. I radiate the energy into the space. So I have my question. What is energy in this way? Or how can we better understand it or better practice it? What we mean with it?
Okay, that's great. I think that helps me get a little clearer vision of the specific aspects that you're interested in delving into. I do use the word energy quite a bit because it does, as you said, communicate to people that there's an invisible, for me, it has to do with vibration and intention, directing of concentration, and through the intention and concentration, I intend for, when I use the word energy, for us to allow a certain flow of or a stream of concentration to go in that direction. And this sense of a vibration that is invisible, that at certain levels we can direct it in varying degrees of intensity. But it is, I think, connected a lot to a sense of electricity and the way we use electricity in the material world, where a lamp without the energy flowing into it can't light. It can't radiate and send its light out. And so that there's I talk about the whole system, this whole chart um, as a floor plan, if you will, for energy management. That Michael Chekhov, to some degree, looked at what kind of energetic patterns were existing in peak performance states and found a way to identify them, give them names, and inspire us with ways to access, experience, or call upon command to have that kind of flow, movement quality, image. So yeah, I do use it in many ways. And um, so one question I have for you is, where does it not work for you?
I can go with most of that what you describe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't like to use this term for some reasons, because I'm not very sure about that ambivalent things in it. Because energy can be in this way a light energy, and it can be a dark energy. And only with the term energy, it's not quite clear what energy I mean. And I have heard also sensed sometime that using that term in earlier times, that there is a little bit a kind of a misunderstanding, that it is just leading to a more physical embodiment, in this way that one try to do it with the body as a physical action, this energy. And as I feel what we are trying to reach in the Chekhov work is not that physical power itself. Of course, everything should be powerful, also from the physical body, but in a certain way. And that we are looking for that what is tried to describe sometimes with energy is in this way. I like your term. It is a focus, it is a concentration and a relationship to something what I am focusing on. And in this relationship, something happens, what brings something to that fact I am focusing on, and what also brings something back to me. And it is what happens there is a movement. It's a way how something is moving in this invisible or intangible, but on the other hand, it is sensible with a sensation that there is something happen. So, and this mixing up with the electricity, what also I have had with some students in earlier times, energy. Nobody was thinking that one has to go now to the plug at the wall and take energy. But what is it? What does it take there? And for me, this term becomes more and more too unspecific, not clear enough. That's only the reason why I'm not use it. On the other hand, of course, I can fully understand that one is speaking it as in daily life. We say, I have no energy to do anything, or can you give me more energy? But on the other hand, then I don't know how it is with you there in your nice country, but it starts also more and more that people take what? Energy drinks. So this leads also to the understanding of that term energy in a way what I think has not so much to do with a Chekhov work.
I think that's really true. It's certainly in the United States, the wall of energy drinks and the amount of caffeine and things that people are consuming to counteract what feels like a kind of cultural weight that's slowing us down, and the over exposure of input that sort of drains us. And so we're looking for more energy, more energy. I just don't have enough energy. And so that can lead, I think, for some people to, when we bring it into the work, to understanding it as kind of like a cheerleader, and we need to get more energy,
Mm-hmm.
and in that physical way. And then it can lead to an excess of strain, an excess of tension, and actually can deplete the artist. It can extract actually the actual ability to allow or have a sense of vitality. I think the word in English, vitality, for me is an interesting word that aligns with this common understanding of I'm too drained, I don't have enough vitality to be able to. So I'm taking all these chemicals, and so that's it's happening here in the United States as well. One thing I'm curious about is, because Joerg, I was so honored to participate in your workshops this summer with your training classes, and the international aspect of your academy truly is that. And as such, you're teaching in the English language with people who come from multiple languages, for whom English may be a second, third, or fourth language. And I'm curious whether you've sensed the or maybe or the use of the word energy. Like, do Russians respond to the use of the word energy differently than the Spanish or the Germans when you say it in English? Do they bring a different cultural relationship to this, to the word itself? And carrying on from that, do you observe to the concept that you would like to be engaged by this word? Do you notice any cultural uniquenesses?
Because I don't use it so much,
Yeah.
I can't see such things as you are asking for now. So I try to avoid to use it. I try more to describe what I mean, and I go to that term activity from Chekhov. And vitality I like in one way, because it has to do with living forces, with the field of the living forces more, and focusing this, what we can take this activity from the living forces, what is absolute abstract, and for the understanding, it's not used in the normal world, such things, taking the activity from the field of the living forces. So everybody has a big question, but I like more that people have these questions and not immediately relating it with a understanding of the cliches.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that it is a question. It is really a point, not only with this term energy, it's with some other terms. How do we use them, and what is the meaning we connect ourselves with it in the teaching or in the delivering, and how can I perceive how the people receive it inside, out of their order understanding of the word. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's even that I had that just when I was now teaching in Moscow, that there is very much liked that one is working with this term energy, and I can understand this person, no problem. I'm not fighting against anybody. I only be careful for myself with using it.
Yeah, yeah. What other thoughts do you have about?
What do you have? What is now? It's your turn. Come with a question.
With the question? Okay. Um, uh, let's. I think it's a very interesting uh, question to ask us about uh, the training process as a whole for the Chekhov technique, and some fundamental are there aspects of the work that really, in your sense, need to stay as close to what one might say Mr. Chekhov put them forward, and others that you feel will benefit from morphing, expanding, growing, exploring the potentiality? Like, maybe what aspects just need to stay really fundamental, and are there aspects that could be brought more forward, more opened up, more diversified, more experimented with?
This is very difficult to say, and very, and of course not. I could give you some drawings for that, but I can't draw here now. And I wouldn't say that it is per definition too clear. First, it depends also to the person who is doing the work in general, who is more related to this side or this side. I think what is very important to understand is this part of imagination and concentration, because all these exercises needs a highly level of concentration. And this is sometimes a difficulty. And the next part is all these tools for the actor itself, for the working on the part, working on the role. All these tools have as a basic condition is a psychophysical training. And this psychophysical training includes for me also the training of imagination and the work with the body. That means that one step by step develop and transform something what one brings into life, what one has, the body, my being, and I need to develop, I call that now the artistic body. With the psychophysical training, I develop step by step my artistic body. And of course, with this artistic body, I can work on the other tools. And this will go forward, backward. Artistic body development of the tools, artistic body, artistic tools. And so that goes hand in hand. If there is not a good freedom in the physical movement, and the psychophysical movement, so that each movement is not only physical, that it has really this possibility of radiation, the possibility to be in space. How can I go to the psychological gesture really as an inner tool? And this, I feel, is something bringing together. And of course, atmosphere without imagination and concentration, how shall that work? And then it leads very easily to nice, nice experiences, because all of the things are working. They have everything in a way that they work for everybody. Let's say more developed or less developed, something will always happen. But this specific quality is then the question. So I wouldn't say one needs this or this, but one needs, in this way, imagination, concentration as a very basic thing, psychophysical training to develop this artistic body. And then it's, for me, more possible or better possible to work with the tools for the character, for the acting itself in a free way. So if one wants to give an order, everything is working hand in hand. Mm-hmm. If I not try out to work even as a first explorer of the first time for the Chekhov work, and if I not work with it for a character, then I'm only rehearsing. That's also funny. Only trying my training, that's boring after a while. So, but it is going hand in hand.
Beautiful.
I don't know. That's how I feel about that. Do you prefer something?
Well, it's very, very much this along with yours, with your thoughts there, that that sense of concentration, everything, the ability to use any given tool is founded in concentration. Mm-hmm. And George Stanoff, when I studied with him, George said there had to be three things that were present all the time, and that they were, concentration, imagination, and radiation. Mm-hmm. So to what is the activity? The activity is to concentrate on what? An image, and then what? Radiation. Yeah. To allow it out. So it aligns perfectly with what you're saying. And my experience is that all the work builds those three together. From the very first concepts, whether it's a opening and closing, expanding, contracting, in the psychophysical movement, the stimulating the imagination to work from to be able to be inspired by the range of images coming from what we might call nature, from earthbound natural images to
Mhm.
abstract images, or even to the scientific process of, you know, molecules, or something in a, what we might say is invisible but mathematic in it. It has a kind of tangibility because it's mathematic. We see something opening in equal distant measure, and we can imagine, you know, geometry or something like that. And then images from the pure world of fantasy and inspiration, building the imagination, expanding the breadth of imagination. The Without concentration, the artist can't hold any of those images, no matter how expanded you get the imagination to be, how versatile and, you know, inspired. If they can't hold the imagination, they can't. The activity it requires to allow it to reach, to radiate, to receive back and forth. Uh, yeah, we need that concentration very, very strongly. And I sense as we go further in this millennium that we have a we're coming, the youth that's coming in have a different relationship to concentration than what we have had, with this incredibly fast-paced world of constantly changing images, and with the field of fantasy, sci-fi, and digitization and things like that. Perhaps in some regard, they have a broader ability to imagine far out, non-natural things. But do they have the ability to do they have the concentration skills to sustain focus, and then to be able to, you know? So that, I think that's an interesting question for
That's a
our.
very interesting question about this imagination. I was asking now for some basic character work in Moscow, the actors, to find the images for the text from the character's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And this was not easy to understand. First, what does it mean?
Distinct, distinct from your personal point of view.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely, because you have to distinguish. You can't use your kitchen image of your kitchen, or the image of your childhood school, when the character is speaking about her mother. You can't use the image of your mother. So
Right.
so
Right.
you have to create an image, and you have to build it up. And there is also the point that these images, what I'm building, so I have to build them, I have to create them, because in relation of the character, because this is very interesting, how a character is seeing what. And so I need really to activate my fantasy in a free way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a big question. It's a very important point. And to do that, reading a text, finding the concentration for, oh, how does it look like? What do I take as image for it? And then go with that, and even later on maybe you change it because you find that will not fit. I
Right.
have to find a new one. So that's it's a very important, very interesting point. And the speaking out of the images changes so much the meaning of the words.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It, well, okay, again, it gives them vitality, it gives them
Yeah.
multidimensionality. Uh, and when one of the gifts that my director, uh, Viktor Tkachenko, when I did Anton Chekhov's The Darling, and he directed me, and his very strong perspective that our biggest task is to convey these images, and it aligns right along with what you know what so much of the work is about. And um, can if we have these images and we cannot uh, remain inspired by them, if we cannot remain or sustain our concentration on them and sustain our spontaneous response to them, then the words just fall flat and the feeling of truth falls away.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so exciting, just something like Yul Brynner as a Chekhov actor, when he did his 5,000 performances of The King and I, touring around the country and on Broadway. He chose a different tool off the chart every night to give him a new image for the night, to be able to keep vital and fresh with that. And because the images are living.
Yeah, yeah.
When we allow the images.
They are also changing or developing sometimes, yeah. And
Yes.
they have to.
And believing in that and trusting that and allowing that to be a source for you becomes an important aspect of our development as artists. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one deep starting point. Concentration and imagination. Yeah.
Thank you. What do you think are there things in the technique that you feel really um, need to find more development, elements perhaps that Chekhov hadn't reached, or that the general training of or dissemination of the work hasn't come to enough light or hasn't gotten enough attention?
I think everything is there, but it is so concentrated, like how to say, what is the image for it? It's so concentrated that one has to go into it, one has to go through it, one has to go to see this, what he gave, also sometimes from the other side. And then to go develop out of that going into it the own stream to follow something. And this is, for instance, all given, from me it's all given, but not in detail. And all the details one has to explore through the work. And this is possible. And one has an orientation through that general frames he gave through the exercises. For instance, one of these themes is a rehearsal process itself, the training process itself. How organize I my self-training? How do I organize my own rehearsal process when I am alone? Nobody's telling me anything. How can I prepare something just by myself and then come together with the others, then come together with the director, taking inputs, and even when I'm going home with them, how can I develop it for myself, and how can I develop this self-perception in my own rehearsal process and in my own training process. So it's also given, everything is given, but this is something what I feel sometimes people need some suggestions, some help, and some support that they can find these subtle qualities in the relationship to oneself that I can see and feel and sense and imagine what my process is and have a relationship to my own process. So this is maybe one answer.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I found, we use the flyback process of,
very much, yeah.
You know, the three primary questions of overall, what did I like, and if I get to do it again, how would I do it differently? What could I add to it, make it juicier and tastier, and then what was my favorite moment to help build this sense of being able to recognize when you're alone, and or even sometimes in the environment on a film set or in a rehearsal or in a performance, but you don't have any direct feedback. You don't have a director or a stage manager actually giving you any information. They say the squeaky wheel gets the attention, the oil. And if you're not a squeaky wheel, if you've done a good job, a fine job, everyone says, oh, that's great. And yet so if something's clearly not working, you might get some feedback. But if it's good enough for whoever's there, then the artist is left abandoned and yearning, because unless they achieved that real state of inspiration there, they know there was more, there could be more, that good is not good enough, that there's a higher level of artistic expression that they could gain. So they really need to build the confidence to know what needs to be strengthened and to know what was working, so that they don't undo the parts that were really working. Which I've also seen. I've seen an actor be given a direction to adjust one little section, and they sort of think that that meant everything, before or after it wasn't working either. And so they lose what was working because they didn't have an awareness of how to identify within themselves what is the
Mhm.
how do the sensations in the artist change
Mhm.
when the artist is, I'll use Mr. Chekhov's words, happy,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? He says happy. When we're happy, how do we know we're happy? And so we need to cultivate that sense of recognizing when we are happy and how to uh, uh, compassionately identify the parts that are making us unhappy and create a strategy to strengthen those,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
often all by ourselves. And I do think it's, as you said, Joerg, one of the hardest aspects for the actor to work with themselves and be confident in bringing something new uh, based on their own sense of what was making them happy.
Mhm.
So uh, I think that's a good point, and part of it is it's just uh, as a teacher when you're in class, that process can take a tremendous amount of time to mentor, and so it often gets overlooked. As a teacher, I perceive myself as wanting to be able to help guide the artist into recognizing for themselves
Mhm. Mhm.
and being able to uh, make make new choices and recognize the special moments so they can keep those in the jewel box.
I think one part of that is really the developing of the artistic body through the psychophysical training and with the help of imagination, because this gives me the very first sense that I can stay or be in relationship to myself, and that I can sense this relationship to myself. And this is psychophysical. It is not only physical anymore. And I sense also if I am in space, if I can radiate my movement or not. So when this is developed as a new sense or as the developed sensation in general, this helps me also later on for the more processes of created feelings and created emotions and created relationships to develop the sense that it is happening and that there something flows or resonates from me to the audience and from the audience to me and from my partner to my partners, and in this direction. I think there's a basic thing in the psychophysical training. And this is one of the, I think, one of the um, most enjoyable things what one can do with a great satisfaction, this psychophysical training.
Yeah.
Even alone, but it's so hard. It's so hard. Yeah.
One of the things I so love about the work in general is how uh, how because we are ever evolving human beings,
Mm-hmm.
we can come back after so many years to the most foundational, fundamental work
Mm-hmm.
and find a whole new relationship to it over and over again. Every time I mold or float or fly or radiate, or, there's something further, richer, new layers, something else to explore, because you are only doing this movement now. You're not ever recalling.
Yeah, you can't recall. You can only build up in a new way, and in another way, and a little bit different from the first one. On the 100th one, you can always only take it new, build it up new. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Wow. Well, I think we've covered some good territory today.
Maybe, I don't know how it feels. It's for you, how it feels for somebody who would look to that or listen to that. I have no idea in this way.
Well, we'll ask for some comments, and I think that we'll wrap this one up, and that we will look for future conversations and for questions from colleagues who might be curious about what we have to say about topics they're interested in.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see what come out of that. Yeah. I'm interested too. I'm interested to hear some other experiences or deepenings in these directions. That would be great. And of course, it can be everything what we spoke about. It can be much more detailed, described. So that was a kind of a more general flying into that, over that landscape. But
Absolutely. Good.
So
We will come back and offer more. And with that,
okay.
Thank you, Joerg.
Thank you, Lisa. And
thank you, everyone, for watching.
Looking forward to meet you again, and even to meet these people who are watching it and having their own thoughts about our talking.
Let us know.
Goodbye.